Our friend Bruce Brain is here. Sniper's here. Um, Sniper says, "Evening, Eric and Goldie." Ellie is here. We'll get started in just a
Oh,
minute.
I can see the chat.
Okay, yeah, we're good. We're good to go. We're going to start. We're starting right now. We're just waiting. You and I will hang out here for just a moment, and we'll see who starts showing up, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
I'll give you an official introduction in just a couple minutes. Well, less than a couple minutes.
So we are still backstage, right?
No, we're up front. We're on. You and I. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, all right,
Okay.
we'll go ahead and hey, Tiger King. This is my friend Walking with Goldy. We're gonna go ahead and get started now. And let me give the introduction. This is my good friend Walking with Goldy, and we've been friends for about two. We've been friends for about 2 years. We had an auspicious beginning between us, and
Auspicious, huh?
auspicious. Um, and since that beginning, we've been friends ever since. I've had the good pleasure of talking with Goldie and person on the phone. Whenever my screen lights up from Transylvania, I am filled with such joy and such love. I'm right now. I am monetized largely due to the effort of our friend
Come
Goldie,
on. Stop
who
buttering me up.
listened to me incessantly despite her better judgment, um, and helped get me monetized. I know some of her story, but I don't know all of her story. Uh, Today, Goldie is going to share her story. It's a walk through. Here we have age of innocence, or the way our perception shapes our experiences. But you know what? I also like to think of it from what you've told me as a walk through faith.
Yes, it's not necessarily as much as a walk to faith at the beginning, because obviously I was a child. So I was given certain principles, but it's the beginning.
It's the beginning.
So
And this is one of three, right?
yeah. And we'll schedule the next one after we talk.
Um, so this is how, uh, this is the beginning of how Goldie arrived to faith. It's the beginning of the walk.
And I'm going to turn off the camera because I have points, bullet points, so I don't forget to mention anything. Because usually I'm a very scattered storyteller. I will jump from one thing to another to another. So I'll turn off the camera so I won't be rude for not looking at you guys.
All right.
You'll still hear
And
me.
go ahead and say something.
What?
I'm just making sure that we can hear you,
Yep.
and we can. So, guys, I would largely be fairly quiet. Every once in a while, I might have a question for Goldie, but most of all, I want to hear Goldie's story too. So, and at the end, when Goldie's ready, we'll stop and we'll go ahead and you can ask her some questions. In the meantime, I hope everyone gives her the utmost attention and love that I have for her as well. So, Goldie, whenever you're ready.
So, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Second, this is not for bragging. It is just to show how, in the same situation, same family, different perspectives, can the people, the children can remember different things. So, uh, and here we go. I was born in 1980, and Squirrel Sniper shares my birthday, not the year. Uh, and I'm second out of four siblings. And How I would describe myself as a child, I would say I was the quiet, shy one. The one you'll have to look to see where she fell asleep. And why that was is because I would play most of my games in my head. It was imaginary and the rest in the reality. And because I overused my brain, my head will hurt. So I would put my head down and fall asleep. Eric, very important. I hear an echo. Is the echo from me?
I don't hear an echo. Guys, do you hear an echo as Goldie's talking? We'll see
Let's
what they
see.
say.
Anyone?
Ellie says yes, she hears an echo.
Okay, I'll take out my headphones to
Sniper does
Okay,
not hear an
sounds
echo.
better. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Tiger King says no echo.
Okay. But can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. So, the whole issue with the echo, it was I was having the headphones on too.
Okay, I think so. I think we're good to go. Big Al says we can
Okay,
hear you both.
good. So, I was 5 years old when my youngest brother was, when my next brother was born. I can still hear an echo. Anyone else?
No,
You
everyone said they
understand
were.
what I'm saying? Okay. So I was 5 years old when my next brother was born, and I was actually in kindergarten. And the kindergarten teacher told me that I have a brother. For some reason, I don't know why, I was angry. I spent the whole summer holiday before that with my grandparents because mom was heavily pregnant, obviously. And I remember when I saw her coming up with the stroller, with the pram. But funny story, even before that, is my sister was trying to convince me that babies come from the womb. And I was like, no, because the stork brings the babies, la 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 la. And she was like, here. And she showed me anatomy books and everything. And I'm like, I will believe you if you can show me where on earth does the pram fit in there. Because in my mind, the stork brought the baskets too, not only the baby. So my mom gave birth and she came to see us and to take us home from my grandparents. And we see her and we run towards her because, of course, we miss her. We haven't seen her for the last 3 months. And I decide I'm going to be more romantic. So on the last 3 meters, I close my eyes and I bump into something, hug it, and I say, "Oh, mom, I'm so happy to see you. I missed you so much." And I kiss it, and it's cold. Well, the public lighting on the streets. Yeah, I kissed one of those poles. And that's the day I met my brother. Started school at 6.5 years as age. And I went in early because my teacher didn't have enough kids to start the class. So not to for her to still have a job, She was walking the Hungarian neighborhoods in order to convince parents and children to enlist early. And my parents didn't want to. My sister went to school at 7. So they said she's going to go to school at 7:30. So she convinced me by lying, basically, that it's the same as kindergarten and everything, which was not as bad as the fact that once I got there, she made differences. And she was one of my main bullies. Yay!
Mm.
What a joy. But yes, I hated that teacher with a passion, and I had her for 3 years until she retired. And when in fourth grade, I finally got a different teacher, which I loved, obviously, only for a year, but which which gave me my full first roles in Christmas pageants and Mother's Day pageants and stuff like that, you know. But until then, the other one didn't do anything like that. But I was, yeah, hating that teacher with a passion. uh, but the brother that I already had got sick. He had asthma. So because of that, when after he turned 1, which makes me 6 years old, and after he turned uh, 2, which makes me 7 years old, we went to the seaside, and this was communism. Okay, so into the seaside there were back then hotels which were reserved um, for the Westerners, for Western Europe. I mean, Spain, France, West Germany, England, and then you had those who were which were reserved for Eastern Europe, and then you'll have the other side. And uh, for somehow in the first year we landed in a hotel which was reserved for the Westerners, and my dad called home on a payphone. I don't know if you guys remember the payphone where you need to put the coins in. It's presented in movies. Uh, and he called through that long distance from the seaside to my hometown. It took us around 16 hours by train to get there from my hometown to the seaside. So, um, and this was at noon. And he called my grandma and told her that yes, we are well. We have beautiful housing, wonderful meals. We are eating exactly the same thing as the Westerners. And as I said, this was right before noon. And at noon, we go to the restaurant, and all the Romanian families were placed at different tables than what we had before. And we had separate menus. But the Westerners saw that, and they made sure that they traded their food, and here I mean the grown-ups, with the food of every child. So every child got quality food, and they asked for our leftovers. And it was some 3 days old fish, fried fish, and some garnish next to it. I don't remember, but I do remember the fish because that night the Westerners did a big hoo ha. What did they do? Well, they tied up two dogs so they cannot reach each other. And in the middle of the two dogs, they laid the tray with the stinky fish that they were trying to feed us at noon. But none of the dogs leash was long enough to reach the tree. And of course, because of smells, neighborhood cats would come and you will hear this loud barking and meowing and everything over there, down to the point that the the security came out. Okay. And when I mean security, I do not mean the police. I mean, like for you, Homeland Security will come out. Okay. And they asked what's going on, what's with all this hoo ha and why. And the Westerners were like, is this what you're feeding your people? That not even dogs and cats eat it? How on earth are you treating your own citizens? Next day, we were at the same tables, which we were previously before the phone call, and we had the same menu as the Westerners. So, yeah, that was one of the funny stories at the seaside. Another funny story is that we walked every evening on the seafront because of my brother's asthma, so he needed to inhale that salty air. And uh, at some point during the day, my dad went to this terrace to get in order to get himself some beer, and I just tagged along. And uh, I saw this little fluffy bundle underneath the table. And my dad asked, "Okay, do you want anything?" And I said, "Yes, I want Mich." Is Mici in as the way it's spelled. It's basically skinless sausage, which is barbecued. And if you clean the barbecue well, it's absolutely delicious. But people were lazy, so they didn't clean the barbecue off between the rounds. So burnt meat paste will get on the new ones, and it will get some that bitter taste. I didn't like it because of it, but I saw the dog, and I'm like, yes, I want meat. My dad was like, okay, how many? I said, one. So I ate a tiny bit of a meat, and the rest of it went underneath the table. So a nice vanishing act. And my dad couldn't believe what's happening. So he was like, "You ate it?" I still had the bit in my mouth, obviously. And I said, "Yeah," overdoing the chewing. And he wanted to get to the bottom of it. "So you want more?" "Yes." "How many?" "Two." And the number kept increasing. I guess I reached up to four. And he catches me doing it with the very first one. And my punishment was that he watched me as a hawk until I literally ate all the others. I didn't need it more punishment than that. But afterward, that he asked for the bill, and on the bill, only his beers were present. And he's like, "Okay, but my daughter ate so many meat." And they said, "No, she didn't." Basically, the waiters were watching from afar what was going on at our table. And he said, "Okay, give me the manager. I need to pay for what my daughter ate." So when the manager comes and my dad says, "Okay, I had beers, my daughter had meat, and on the tab it's only the beers." And he said, "Yes, because not your daughter did not eat the meat. It was my dog which was underneath the table." Uh, Ever since then, we were the only kids on the seaside who were allowed to play with Otto. Mind you, Otto was a San Bernard puppy. So, yeah. And another event which happened in that year in the seaside was that mom was trying to put my baby brother down to sleep. and we were noisy, so that took us rowing because the hotel complex between the housing and the restaurant, they had this rowing lake, and we went, and I see something in the um, in not in the rear, in the front of the boat. And I'm like, Dad, look what I found. And it was a silver necklace. So my my dad was like, "Oh, that's nice." And we tried giving it back to the owner. Nobody knew who the owner was. So we ended up taking it home. And my dad talked with the silversmith and changed that ring into that necklace into two rings, one for my sister and one for me. I don't know what happened to the rings. Don't ask me. Hi, Greg. I see you. Thank you for being here. So, next year, when we went to the seaside, uh, we walked down the same walkway next to the seaside, of course, because of my brother. And we see this huge dog, okay? And he eating a cow bone. And he was like one bite and then one another bite, and the cow bone was gone. And I whispered to myself, Otto, and he's up. In a year, he, he grew that tall that he had to bend down to smell my brother's top of his head. And as soon as the owner saw us, he recognized us and he's like, Otto, go play with the kids. The run which that dog did. That's why my favorite breed is a Saint Bernard, even though I know I'll never afford to have one. But that run with those huge paws of him in the sand, it was cute. It was beautiful. Uh, you might ask, why on earth is she saying that perspective counts it all and changes things? You might notice that I didn't say many negative things about my family, even though I grew up with an alcoholic and abusive father. So he didn't kept his DV only to mom. We got our share of it also. So yes, but in the middle of it, I chose to remember the happy memories. I chose not to. I I was still at an age where, in spite of who he was, I still saw him as a hero. And that's why this part is entitled Age of Innocence, because I had my naive blindfolds on. My dad is a hero, my mom is a hero. So, yeah, this is how life goes. And yeah, that was my second year at the seaside when I met again Otto. And this time we were housed not as close to his housing or the owner's terrace, but Otto will escape and he will come and literally lay down in front of the door of our hotel. And one of the incidents, because we have to have an incident every time we go to the seaside, uh, was that an old lady got tried to get out of the hotel, and she got scared because this big dog was literally there, and she starts yelling, Otto, poor soul, he was asleep. So the lady woke him up. He yawned at her. I believe that was double purpose to show his teeth and to say, Lady, you're boring me." Um, and then he put back his head on his paws and went back to sleep. And my dad goes to see what's going on because he was in the reception area playing rummy. Uh, he sees Otto and he says, Otto, go home. As soon as he saw Otto, Otto got a guilty face on. Oops, I got caught. And for a split second, my dad was accused of bringing his pet in a no pet hotel. And my dad said, "Here is this and that terrace on the beach side. Please call the person in charge. Tell them to come pick up their pet because it's his." And another thing which I saw with my sister, it was that a reporter with a big camera jumped a fence, but he didn't see that in the yard in which he jumped into, there was Otto. So Otto barked twice, of course, very on a very low note because he was a San Bernard, and the reporter jumped back. So yeah, um, another event in my life was I was 7, and right before Christmas, I went home from school because my belly was hurting, and my mom was like, "Okay, everyone is having the flu. Your head might be hurting so hard that you don't know what's hurting, so I'll just give you flu medicine." And next day, I throw up, and my mom was like, "Okay, where shall we go? Shall we go to the GP, or which it was our family doctor? We have that here. It's basically a smaller medical practice where you have all your medical history and they're in charge of you. So that's the first place you go if you need medical assistance. And or shall we go to the emergency? I didn't even clock it that why on earth is she asking me, a 7-year old, where to go? But I said to the emergency, and when I tried to stand up from bed, I couldn't walk. So my sister went to one of our neighbors in order to call for an ambulance, and this was 10 a.m. Would you care to guess at what time did the ambulance come to pick me up?
2 hours later.
5 5 p.m. So my sister started calling at 10 a.m. And how many of you are familiar with the Volkswagen Passat as a type of car? It wasn't a van in which there was a gurney. It was a long, how would I describe it better? Hmm, I would say a bit lower than a dirge, where you they put the coffin in and they take it to the cemetery. Uh, So I had to crawl on the gurney, and if I wasn't careful, I would have bumped my head into the ceiling of the car. So we make it to a hospital, uh, and they make my poor mom carry me from one building, the fourth floor, to the other building, the third floor, because the first building, the fourth floor, was the surgery, and the other building, the floor, was the pediatric wing of the hospital. So they did all this tests on me, and they finally decide that I'm going to be at the surgery level, which means first building, fourth floor. And they put me in a room with two older ladies and a young girl, kind of my age. And this girl was red. Okay, like she was burning up with fever. And I'm like, what's her problem? And I said she had appendicitis, and more than likely the doctor forgot something in her. Uh, and yes, sadly, that was a thing back in communist Romania. And the nurse comes and gives me a shot. And later on, she comes and says, "Okay, let's go see a movie." And I get out of the room, of course, already dressed into my jammies. And I tell the nurse, "I don't think that we're going to see a movie. I think we're going to, I'm going to have an appendix surgery." As soon as she heard that, she took me into the nurse's office and she told me to just lay down on a stretcher there. And I woke up in the operation room, just being tied down, hands and legs, and another shot being given to me in one of my arms. And I just said, "In the other one too, please." And I zoomed out. Woke up, according to my parents, a couple of days later, uh, and they were actually worried that I might not wake up at all. And of course, I had appendix surgery, which was already bursted, and I was in the initial phases of sepsis when I got to be opened. So they literally had to unpack everything, wash everything out, and pack everything in again. And thankfully, the doctor didn't forget anything in me, even in spite of the fact that it was the same doctor that operated the girl in my room. And but they had the audacity to tell my mom that if I wouldn't gone into surgery, I would have been dead in an hour.
Right.
So yeah, like it was her fault that the ambulance came at 5 p.m. instead of 10 when we called it. But yes, uh, and this was the right before Christmas, and we were supposed to say a poem in our church. We had a Christmas pageant, which during communism we had to keep it in the dark because we were not allowed to. We were once one of the religions which was not recognized by the Communist Party. They were trying to push the orthodoxy really, really hard. And I couldn't learn that poem for the life of me. I literally couldn't learn it. I tried, and my sister already knew it by heart only from hearing me how many times I read it and how many times I tried to say it. And you don't want to know how many beat ups I got for that fact that I didn't learn it. And but in my mind, it was like my mind knew that I will never say that poem because my surgery was right before Christmas. And at Christmas, I was still in a hospital. So my sister ended up saying the poem instead of me when my turn came. Uh, because obviously I was in her hospital. Yeah. Uh, that was the year because they got scared that they lost me, that I got one of my biggest Christmas presents, which, what was it? It was a small mixer. It was a small battery operated mixer. It didn't have much power, but I liked it. And of course, like after any abdominal surgery, I had to keep a certain regimen and nothing fried and stuff like that. But, and here you'll hear it, why mashed potatoes are my comfort food.
Now we get the whole story.
So, of course, I was allowed mashed potatoes and I loved them. And mom was making some. And I was like, "Come on, mom, please put some." and this some potatoes in this small pot, and I'll mix it up too. I want to help you. And she's like, no, the mixer doesn't have enough power in order to do it. I'm like, please, please, please. And she was like, no. And what does Goldie do in her childhood reaction? She slams the mixer on the floor because Mama didn't allow her to cook with it. But yes, I love mashed potatoes even now. And when I want my comfort food, that's mashed potatoes with something. I don't care. And if I don't have something, even mashed potatoes on their own. So, as I said, this was the winter of 1987. I was 7 years old, almost eight. And the summer of 1989, we were talking in front of our house, but it was quite a long ways from our house, and there was nobody next to us and nobody in hearing distance. And my sister and me were talking, of course, because we heard it from the grown-ups, about what will happen if Ceausescu falls. And for those who don't know, Ceausescu was our communist dictator back then. And in school, we were taught that he was our dad, and Elena, his wife, was our mother. Yeah, it was a lot of indoctrination uh, going on there. But we were talking in front of the house, and we were basically whispering what will happen if Ceausescu will fall. And we were whispering because we knew that if anyone hears us, then our parents will be in jail by evening. And I was 9, and my sister was 11. So, yeah. And then, right the next same year in December, the revolution happened. And a friend of mine who was born and grew up in Timișoara, which is where the revolution started, she said that Romanian history is not accurate. The Romanian Revolution didn't start on the 16th of December, as they say, but it started a month earlier. But the army literally locked down the city, and people would just in trying to contain it. So people from the city were trying to escape just in order to spread the word what's going on, and they were never found, or their body was found in an unmarked grave. So it's it was serious. And in my city there were two army bases which literally occupied the entire street. They were face to face. And the first army base was ordered to attack the second because there were the terrorists, which they called the people who were against the regime. And the second was ordered to attack the first because they were the terrorists. Which they didn't count on was that both army bases were going to the same pub for beers, and they were friends. So instead of obeying the orders, they called up each other and they asked, okay, what on earth are they talking about terrorists? I don't know. They're telling me they're at you. No, they're telling me you're at you. So they disobeyed the order. That's why in my hometown, there was no bloodshed. But at the same time, what they did, they activated their reservists and they gave them weapons. We do not have the Second Amendment here, so weapons are not for free use or free carry or whatever you have there. So, and that was the only time when I saw my dad wearing a handgun on a holster on his shoulder underneath his coat. So, yeah, I saw a gun when I was 7 years old. And oddly enough, I lived to be 45 and I still haven't heard one single real gunshot. Huh. I wonder why. Maybe because guns are not free here? I don't know. Um, so revolution came, and sadly, the very first law which was passed uh, after the revolution, it was by an unelected president without having a parliament on national TV that abortion is legal in Romania. That was the very, very, very first act, that the very, very first law that my country chose to do after earning their freedom, which is, to me, is sad. But I didn't know about that. So basically, if I would describe the way I saw my childhood, it was with ups and downs. And I we would have fun times and we would have very bad times. Like we would go to the cinema, we would play cards, rummy, we would go to the woods having picnic. Uh, but at the same time, I got such a beat up only from slaps because I didn't learn my timetables that my head was double. So when I said that DV was normal, I wasn't lying. Uh, Now we got to when I was 10, I saw something which I didn't know how to deal with in my home. So I suppressed it. Basically, what I saw my mom crying, I saw my sister crying. I didn't understand why. And my dad was naked in the kitchen. Don't ask me. I wasn't able to deal with it back then. So basically, filed it away. On At age 13, I went to my only camp, and it was actually with a modern dance group. And by this time, my dad was AWOL somewhere in Hungary. We didn't know anything about him for a year. And it was fun. We went, we danced, we were housed in a campsite in the mountains. It was beautiful. And also, as I said, my only camp that I ever attended as a child, which can be interesting. At 14, I confirmed. Um, this is a practice which happens in Reformed Church, Lutheran Church, Unitarian Church, Catholic Church, at least Greek Roman Catholic Church. It happens. Basically, it's a way of recognizing that you're not a child anymore, yet you're not a grown up yet. Because, yes, I would be allowed to take communion after the ceremony, but I wasn't allowed to vote yet as to decisions which the church will take on Mass. And back when it actually happened in 1994 on my birthday. So it was Palm Sunday. It was my birthday. It was one of my name days because I have first name and middle name, and Eric knows them. Knows them. I won't challenge him to pronounce them because he'll butcher them for sure. Uh, and it was the day of my confirmation. So It was actually the first time when I took communion, or as people would call it, the Lord's Supper. And at this event, I got as a gift a Bible and a songbook. And I literally hid the Bible underneath my pillow, and I was reading, knowing that if my dad catches me, I'm gonna get a beat up and the Bible is gonna be burned. But I risked it anyway. So that was my start of looking and searching for God in the way which I understood it. And yeah, it was interesting to see. And I wish somehow that I kept that innocence in it, but at the same time, I'm not sorry on the road for the road which I took, because it formed me the person which I am. From 15 to 18, I went to trade school to a different city, and I was commuting by train. And sadly, this is the instance where my innocence was shattered. I don't know if you realize what happened and what was my suppressed memory when I was 10, but basically, my dad abused my sister, and um, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how to deal with it. But back when I was, I would say 16, maybe 17, I was walking with my dad, and he was like, "Why, why are you changing boyfriends like socks?" And I'm like, "Well, they all want something. I don't want to give it to them. So when time comes that they ask for it, I could just say, you know what? Leave me alone. If that's what you want from me, I don't want it." And 2 weeks later, my own dad calls me a whore, and he tries to make a move on me. And my sister, for some reason, she makes it home, and she just grabs my hand, and literally we run out of the house. And as a repercussion, against, never mind that my family didn't believe, especially my grandma, and because it was her precious son, but my dad threatened me that he's going to take me out of school, that if he catches me on my commute on my train on the train, then he's going to rape me. And basically that was it. But ever since then, I was going to school with the fear that that's going to happen. And I literally told my benchmate, my classmate back then, I said, if he goes through, I'm going to kill myself. If he goes through with that promise, I'm going to kill myself. And that was the end of my innocence, because I had to deal with everything which I was not ready to deal with at time. Before I turned 18, I had to deal with it. And the last slap which I got from my dad was when I was already 18. And that was the only time when I raised my hand to hit back. And I stopped myself in the air because I was reminded of that Bible law, of that commandment, honor your mother and father. And I just couldn't. So I looked him in the eye with my hand still up in the air and told him, "Do you see this hand?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, hit me." And I was already taller than him, so I was kind of looking down at him. And I said, no, this hand was raised up upon you now, but it never will. You can put me in the grave, but this hand will never raise up on you. And he cried. He started crying, left the room, and he never ever raised his hand upon me again. I saw him trembling with nerves and being ready, like clenching his fist, being ready to hit, but he never done it again. So this was my innocence, my ageless innocence, with all the goods and some of the bad. But you know what? I choose to cherish the good. I choose to see the good. I choose to be thankful that he didn't go through with his promise. And I believe that I was spared. I believe that my sister was literally ordered to be there in the moment that she was there. And yeah, I'm thankful for it. So here it goes.
Wow. How did that feel? Telling that, reliving that.
uh, told it in different times for different people because, to be honest, and I might sound rude, I know I might sound rude, but I don't have patience with all the cuddled snowflakes that think that they are entitled to be pampered even as grown-ups. I'm sorry, but many times, oh, but I was traumatized when I was a child. I'll be, man, if we would compare life stories, you might end up crying because you pity me. So I'm not going to do that. Oh, no, no, I don't want to hear that. But sometimes they would. So I would just give them a little glimpse and they would be like, oh, okay, I had nothing like that. Well, then man up or grow up, grow a backbone, and own up to your own decisions and realize that like people are not here to pamper you.
Um, you ready to answer some questions if anyone has any?
Yeah.
I'm interested in uh, so what drew you to that faith? Because you just as easily, with what was going on with you, could have been drawn towards a darker path.
Yeah. Back when I was still a child, my grandpa, my dad's dad, oddly enough, uh, he was the one who took us but by our hands, and he took us every Saturday to the religion class in the Reformed Church. And it it wasn't indoctrination, it was really learning stuff from the Bible, events from the Bible, but which were PG-13, obviously. And that was my introduction to the Reformed Church. And my grandpa and my godfather, those were my islands of peace because they were so calm people. My grandpa would be like, if he heard anything about me which was not good, he would be like, okay, Goldie, is this true? Look what I heard about you. But at this tone, at this calm, peaceful tone. And if it was true, I would tell him yes. I would instantly start crying. And he knew it was true. But if he wasn't, I would stand tall and I would tell him, Grandpa, that's not true. And he would believe me.
Hmm. Guys, you have any questions for our friend Goldie? How about your any faith in your family? Did anybody in your family have um, the same faith that you have now? Was there any was it part of their lives?
Uh, Oddly enough, the answer is the same person. He's my grandpa. Many times I would see him on Sundays. If he wasn't able to go to church or even after church, he would just sit in his room by the window and he would be reading something. I don't know what he was, I didn't know what he was reading. And we would look outside and think and read some more. Basically, he was reading the Bible and meditating on it, but I didn't understand. How can you read and look up and think and then read some more? I thought he was bored of that book, but and I wanted to watch TV, which was obviously in the room. But yeah, he was the one who was literally studying the Bible and meditating on it. And it showed in his life, in his practice.
Our friend Lee said, Goldie, a lot of us are falling out lately or can't pass our own judgments. I've lost friends also. Can we interpret things differently and surrender to our egos?
Um, you have a saying that every cloud has a silver lining. And I do believe that some people are meant to be there in your life for a season, some for some years, some for a couple of days, but some for a lifetime. And but those who are there for a lifetime, those are the people, and they are not supposed to be more than a handful. Those are the people that you can turn to with whatever, and they'll be there to love on you, to advise you, to tell you where you're wrong, and you will take it from them because you know that those are the people that will tell you the truth no matter what. And they're doing it because they love you, not because they're coming for a place of judgment, not because they're trying to push you down.
Nice. Jace says, Goldie, with your strength of character, what's one advice you would give someone who feels lost?
Huh. I would say each of us has a different path. I would say do not give up, but search for that path and own up to your own mistakes. Own up to your mistakes, ask for forgiveness if you need to, and move on. It builds character, it builds strength. That's what I would say.
Uh, Adam, Percolated Fish says, Goldie, what branch of the church did you attend?
I attended, as growing up, attended the Reformed Church as when the Reformation happened with Luther, with Calvin, with Zwingli Ulrich. Um it was the branch of Calvin which determined the Reformed Church, but it was the same year which they split from the Catholic Roman Church. Uh, and right now, I'm a Baptist.
Um, what brought you from the original faith you started with to being a Baptist?
Well, that's a whole story which will be sad. And well, part of it will be said next time, and part of it will be said in the very last episode.
Gotcha. So we won't get into that. Hey, Darren. So I have a question for you, Goldie. Wait a minute, Flipper. I'll save my question towards the end. Um, Miss Flipper says, "Did you ever wish things aren't the way you might perceive them?"
Huh. Wish things aren't the way I might perceive them. Um, I did compare myself, and especially from the age 14 up, 13, 14 up, with my cousin, who's only 1 month older than I am. But he was a single kid, and in the way I saw it, in a happy family. And I I thought that he had it well, and I envied him for it. It took me already being a mom, having to tend to my sick mom, changing the gauze on her new surgery, to realize that I was born in the family that I needed to be born into. So Goldie can be the Goldie you know today. And would I change everything? No. Did I have a time where my own judgment made me understand circumstances in a totally wrong way? Yes. And we'll get to it later on. But there were times where I thought things were what they were not. Because back then, saying, even in family, saying what your issues are was shameful. So, my cousins had other issues, which I found out about like a year ago, 2 years ago. So, yeah. But as as a teen or tween, I did envy my cousin because all of the opportunities which I saw his parents gave him, and because I thought his house was peaceful. So, yeah.
Um,
And yes,
our friend Maddie said, "Goldie, I've been to church a few times, and I felt put off because I was expecting to make a donation. How do you suggest handling this?"
I'm sorry to say, but some churches are businesses, and that's wrong. I believe that a church that's not interested in who you are, and it's not interested, and here I mean as a community, and it's not interested in befriending you and being a friend to you, have no business telling you how to spend your money.
Would I be correct in saying that you are a woman of faith and not a woman of church? That you would go where your faith led you, even if it disagreed with the church?
Yes, but
That's
at the
awesome.
same time, um, I'm a woman who went to 5, 6 different churches before I settled in my church. I went to see how how they interacted, what I liked, what I didn't like. And this to preview a little bit of my misconception. I was judging myself for being a single mom. And there's no one on this planet that could tell worse words about me than the ones that I was telling myself. So, no way. But um I didn't want to go to a church to feel judged. I didn't want to go to a church to be envious of others. I didn't want to be going to church to feel way too hot because it was in an attic and they didn't have AC. And actually, the very first church I landed in, and then I went to the others too to see which is the difference. I I ended up going back to, and we were just talking today at church about the fact that now 20 years later, I saw many coming and going because I believe that if you are in a community and you see that something is wrong, you don't just up and go, but you put your energy towards fixing that wrong. If that means meeting with the pastor, if that means going helping clean or helping with Sunday school or whatever, you do not up and go because something's not right. So,
Um, I like that answer. All right, are you ready for my question?
yep.
In the 2 years that I've known you, has your opinion and view of yoga and yogis changed from our very first meeting?
Now, how truthful am I allowed to be?
You're allowed to be 100% truthful as all. I would never expect anything except 100% truth and 100% bluntness from you, Goldie.
In front of others?
In front of others, in front of others.
Uh, I admit that there are times where I see similarities. And as I told you also in private, you take thankfulness to a different level. And I admire that at you. But at the same time, when you put on equal footing Jesus with all the other deities, that's where okay, this the next is not for me. Because to my knowledge, there's no other religion where God died in order to pay the debt of sinners. And here I say to my knowledge. So yeah, I'm not gonna go Bible bash, as you very well know.
I do know.
I'm not gonna say that my truth is only the truth, the only truth available there. But I will say that I know why I believe what I believe. And in the very last part of our talk, I'll elaborate on it. So I'm pretty set on my path. And I admit, I know for sure that not every path, for, my path is not for everyone. Each of us have our own path to take, and it's up to us to find it. It's not a one size fits all.
Um, in the 2 years that I've known you, you've shared a lot with me, but you've never ever um, tried to change my own faith. And in your openness and the love that you've offered, you have actually shaped my faith quite a bit without trying to do anything other than be yourself. We've had other friends who have come in who have not been as graceful as you um, in their attempts, as you say, Bible bashing. Um, and I really think that you accomplish more with the quietness of your faith, living it, um, than going out there and using the Bible as a weapon against other people.
Um, I was back in missionary school back when my daughter was 1.5 years ago old, and we were told that we were paired up and we were sent to evangelize. It was part of our course, and we were literally told, you are not there to convince. You are there to share your testimony. You are there to, if you're asked, to show Bible verses, but you have to allow the Holy Spirit to convince. Because if you try to convince and go on your own strength, that change in the person that you're testifying to will not be long lasting. So I took that to everything that I did when it comes to faith. I do my best to show, I advise. Maybe I put a different perspective sometimes. And then it's up to people and it's up to the Holy Spirit to convince. It's not my job to convince. Hence, it's not my job to Bible bash.
Right. And you never have. Um, Now, not in the 2 years that I've known you, you've always been, and you know that you always are, uh, you state your opinion unapologetically, but in it's always been in a loving manner. Even our very first conversation, uh, it was blunt, it was straightforward. Do you remember what you said to me?
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. Well, I am done with reading. Yeah, I basically said, "Hi, I'm here from Russia, and I don't agree with this yoga thing." Basically,
That was it. That was it. Um, and yeah, in that very first conversation, we became friends, and you and I have been friends ever since.
yeah,
I appreciated the fact that you were open, that you told me exactly how you felt, but you also stuck around and shared with me and talked with me and laughed with me. Uh, you know what I mean? You let me know where you stood, but
yeah.
you never tried to change me.
It's not my job. It's not my job. It's, and here, yes, I will quote a Bible verse, but literally, the Bible puts this question: who are you to judge someone else's servant? And this someone else can be God Himself. So, who am I to judge you for the path that God has ordained for you? I don't have the right. So, why would I tell you that you're wrong? I might be wrong. You know, yes, I strongly believe what I believe, but people have believed strongly in wrong things before, you know. But also,
Right?
to quote Paul, the way you call him is Saint Paul. If I, if me believing in Jesus Christ and his resurrection is wrong, I didn't lose anything. But if I don't believe and he really raised from the dead, then I lost eternity.
Um,
And of course, it was paraphrased, but that's me, not others.
right. One of the things I always enjoy talking to you about is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
How,
And
this will be one of the last questions, and we'll start to wrap things up for the day. How does what role does the Holy Spirit play in your life?
well, in my life is that gentle feeling, hey, this one is not right. You're doing something wrong, so stop. And it's not a voice, it's just that feeling, hey, come back from there. That's
Right.
not your path. You know, some people might call it conscience, Some people might call it different. I choose to call it the Holy Spirit.
Um, in A Course in Miracles, they tell us, hey, Jessica, that there is um, the mind is split, but only one thing is true, that there is the ego, which is a psychological, emotional memory construct. We put all these things that we remember, uh, all of our uh, emotional baggage or psychological projections into the ego, which is projected outwards. And then we have then we have the Holy Spirit, which is, as you said, that gentle voice of God, or we could say consciousness itself, if we wanted to. And the more we surrender to the voice of the Holy Spirit, the more we live a life that is aligned with God. The more we ignore the Holy Spirit and listen to the ego, the farther away from God that we get. And in the last 2 years, talking to you about the Holy Spirit, it has helped me open up and listen a little more clearly, a little more acutely.
Well, and that should be the voice to guide our lives, because we can all be selfish. We can all react to challenges in our lives where we think or we perceive a slight from people. And I'm the first to do it. I'm not saying because I'm Christian, I'm without fault. No, no, no. We can all act on our ego. And most of the times we do.
Right? But it's nice to have that option. It's nice to know that we have something else to turn to. And the more often we do, the easier it becomes, especially when we start getting that guidance, when we start feeling that loving presence.
Yeah.
All right, Goldie, we're going to wrap things up for the afternoon.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready for part 2.
Well, we'll have to schedule it because I already have the schedule for next month. So we'll talk offline.
That sounds good. And
It does.
again, this is a 3-parter.
Yes.
Can you give us a hint? Where does the second part leave off? We know where it begins because it begins where this one left off.
Well, it goes through the searching. It goes through the age of rebellion, age of me thinking that I knew better and acting out. And yeah.
Okay.
And it ends with me being a single mom.
I've heard a bit of the story myself. As I mentioned before, this is a fascinating story. I can let you know, not to give too much away, but I can let you know that it has a happy ending.
Oh, really? It does?
It does. It certainly does.
If you say so.
Anna said, thank you so much. Lovely Goldie and Yogi.
You're welcome. As you well know, my daughter is all the way like 337 kilometers away from me. So it's interesting
Yeah.
that it's a new lesson, it's a new phase, it's empty nest, but not really. It's a mixture. It's a
Right.
wonderful new season, and I'm learning on it. So,
Um,
yeah.
I could see how it would be mixed as uh, being far away from your heart, and at the same time being so overwhelmingly happy for what she has achieved and what she's doing right now. Uh, Literally a dream come true. That someone has the path to their dream has been laid out in such a wonderful way, uh, and you got to witness that. You got to be part of it. You got to nourish it. Um,
Yes, and at the same time, I had always the right people around me to help guide me and her. So when I said that some people are there for a couple of days and some people are there for a season and some people are there for a lifetime, or some people are there only for a couple of years, I mean it. Like I said that I went through the missionary school. Uh, the leaders from that missionary school, I still have them as friends. They are husband and wife. They are awesome, awesome people. I don't nag them every week.
right.
I like look, we met right before I took my daughter to university, and then a couple of weeks before, because we had a common friend which was visiting with them, and I wanted to meet with that person. But before that, it was like 3 years that we haven't met, haven't talked, you know. But as soon as we met, we picked up from the same place. We were still on the same level. And this is actually the lady which was born and grew up in Timisoara, where the revolution started. And her husband is one of the men that if I ever get into a relationship, he needs to screen that person because I asked him to. And
Um,
then my pastor is the other one. Why? Because I see them as an example of men, as example of husbands, and as example of father. I
nice.
saw not only the surface, but I got on the inside also. I saw them the way they react even when they're not showing to the people,
Right.
you know. So, and I love them for it and I respect them for it. And that's what I want for myself.
Adam says it was a pleasure to get to know you, Goldie. Get to know you better, Goldie.
Nice to know you too. So,
Um, okay. Well, Goldie, thank you so much.
you're welcome. So,
And
will you remove me from the screen?
I'm going to say goodbye uh, at the same time. I'm going to say goodbye to you and say goodbye to everyone. So,
Okay.
uh, everyone, I'll be back 5:25. As you know, Adam's going to come up and hang out with us. Uh, Goldie, any parting goodbye that you'd like to?
Hmm. Let me see. I I don't think that I have it all. So this was not for me to brag. This was not for me to say I'm the best of the best or anything. If this if the, this talk, if the only thing it does is to give you strength and courage to move forward and to look for your own path, then my goal is accomplished.
Nice. With that, we will say goodbye. Thank you, Goldie. Thank you, guys.